guess when you said we're going to locate the septic closer to the road?
No.
I thought that's what I read.
That was an alternative.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that was
Okay.
a recommendation or an alternative.
Okay.
Shady Lane is just really actually a private drive, really. I mean, it's not kept up by the township or anything. They have no...
I don't think it'll be a road ever. Like,
Probably, I don't know. I mean, but yeah, the board, a couple of the board members told me that, that's just a lane. We made the small house smaller from the last time we were here. We moved it 10 feet back further from the lake. We're, I think, 11 feet from the septic, from the house line. About all I can really.
Okay. Questions from board members for staff or the applicant?
I have questions, Mr. Chairman. In reading your application, it says downsizing the existing house to a 2-bedroom from a 3-bedroom. The house that you have there now is a 3-bedroom. For 1,029 foot is a 3-bedroom house.
Yep.
Okay. That one confused me because I couldn't understand how you're downsizing from a 1,000 square foot to 2,000 square foot. It didn't work for me with my math knowledge. You're just downsizing the number of bedrooms.
Correct.
Okay. And normally the requests that come in, we deal with one ordinance, but yours is 4. And granting any one of those 4 is going to negatively impact the lake and the groundwater. In Ordinance 422, 6.5, I'm sure you've read through, it's very short and very distinct. It says holding tanks for new residential dwellings, groups of dwellings, or other establishments shall not be allowed. The entire front end of your proposed house would be in the shore impact zone, the way you've turned it. And it's 41 feet as opposed to the 50 foot required. I don't know why you've got to turn that way if it matches the shoreline or why it's kiltered like that. But and oftentimes when we go through the comprehensive plan for positives, we use the living goals. And the first one in the living goal that we use a lot doesn't even apply to this. It says to support housing options that give people in all stages of life and all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes. Your current house on Big Birch is all 3 of those. You have those already. So we can't use that to justify a variance because you have those. So my basic question is, what makes your application, your lot, so unique that we should disregard those 4 ordinances and grant your variance?
well, it's not
We like
year
our lot.
round.
But your lot is not unique. The other lots around you that's the size of the lot that you bought. You own that.
Yes.
If it's a problem, you own that problem. You created it.
What happened the first time we were here, the land surveyor put the home in a lane with the property lines, okay? And that shoved the corner of the home too close to the lake, okay? Now, we went back to the original lines in the cabin now, and we went back 10 feet, okay, from the lake. And we didn't line it, we lined it up with the original building site, okay, basement.
But when you bought it, it was a non-conforming structure. So that's, in order to build new, you need a variance to be non-conforming again, rather than rebuilding what you have there. and situating it on a holding tank. If you rebuild, or if you build new, you can't do that on a holding tank. The ordinance is plain and simple and short. It can't be done. If you reconstruct what you have, you can reuse the holding tank, because that's what it was when you bought it. So I don't see any way around it.
I have a question for the applicant. I'm trying to recall. I'm trying to recall from the site visit, is there a garage on the current?
Underneath.
Underneath, okay, that's that tuck in and it's got,
Yep,
it's a
tuck
double, okay. Okay, yeah.
And the proposed new one, yeah, would be the garage doors you'll see on the left. And the existing one has one door, and this one have two.
So, garage is increasing the garage is a part of the increased
Right.
square footage. Okay. And you're the last home on that drive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because it didn't appear to me that connected to the
Right.
property, that the property next door, the road comes in from the other direction?
Correct.
All right.
Any other questions or comments for staff or the applicant? Anyone?
But isn't that why we came in for a variance?
But variances are geared towards needs, not wants.
Well, we need
Especially on
we need a
lakeshore.
tank. That's all we can get. That's all we can get.
You have options. You can rebuild your existing home and stay on that holding tank. But if you build new, you can't do it on a holding tank.
So, if I remove the cabin and build on that basement,
Staff?
Mr. Chair, Member Schwegel, applicants, if you were to rebuild a non-conforming structure, dimensionally it would have to be identical. You can rearrange the inside,
Right.
but the sidewall heights, the location, the slope of the roof, none of that can change. You can rebuild new, but it would have to be exactly the same dimensionally as what's existing.
Correct.
So you can rearrange the inside, but you cannot change the outside dimensions.
So
So
we just thought, we're improving the lake by moving back, so I guess if we, I don't know. Just that we're helping the water in the lake.
But with a holding tank, you're not. The possibility of
But we're
bad
far
stuff for
enough
the
away.
groundwater is very, very high. That's why most jurisdictions don't allow holding tanks.
I guess my thought on that is that whether they build this structure that they're proposing, whether they build a new home on the cabin that's there, or whether they just keep what's there, there's going to be a holding tank there.
Right.
Because it's already there, it's already permitted, so that effect on the lake is not changing. So there really is no impact on the lake, especially because they're downsizing the number of bedrooms. Theoretically, the amount of water used should be less. So, to me, I don't see that as an issue because it's going to be a holding tank regardless of what's there. Whichever option they have, even if they just keep what they currently have, there's a holding tank there.
Other questions, comments? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Hearing, seeing none, looking for a motion to close the public hearing, please.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, Mike,
I'll second it.
From Rob, all those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Moving to our finding of facts now. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, question for you.
Yes.
Are we going to separate the issues? If they go with the plan that they've presented, they'll need a variance to put that tank closer to the road. Correct?
The tank.
Or no?
No, that was an option that was given them.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the area they are in, houses are permitted, and so that would be a yes.
Yes from Bonnie. Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number one. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. If we read Appendix A in the Shoreland Overlay District, it says that the purpose of this ordinance is to protect and enhance the quality of the surface waters by promoting wise utilization of public waters and related land resources. And if we have to jump through 4 variance hoops to get there, I don't believe we're following the purpose of it.
Okay.
And I'm going to say yes, because if I'm looking at 10.2.1, it says the purpose of the overlay district is to protect and enhance the quality of surface water by promoting wise utilization of public waters and related land resources. And I'm going to state that one because, for the reason that we're not changing use of a holding tank. It's going to be a holding tank regardless.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Mike?
I'm a yes for the same reason.
And I'm a yes for that reason as well. Yes for number two. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that it does not agree with. Living goals number 2, nature goals number 1, 2, and 3, and water resource policies number 1 and 2, and lakeshore living number 4. It doesn't. It goes against all of those. One of those?
Yeah, I left
There you
it
go.
at home. All right, I'm going to say yes, it does. Under lakeshore living, it says to have limited impact of additional shoreland development. It doesn't say no impact, but limited. And I believe this is being limited because they have moved the house further back than the current house is. significantly, I believe. And also under, let's see, the nature goals. And nature goals number 2, when it's talking about, let's see, responsible use of the natural resources, including surface and groundwater, and I believe by not, it's not going to have any impact on that because, as I said before, the holding tank will remain the same. And also, when we're looking at where this house is located, it's the last house on this road, so I think the setback from the road is not going to affect anyone else living there other than themselves, because the road doesn't go any further. And looking at that area there, that road is never going to be widened or developed by the county or the township. So I believe that is kind of negates the distance from the road. So I would say yes on that one.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Mike?
I'm a yes also.
Okay. And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner.
I'm a yes on this one. I think since they've come back with the changes they're doing is being as flexible as they can with that small lot, and I think everything they're trying to do is very reasonable.
Okay, yes from Mike. Bonnie?
I'll say yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 4. Number 5,
Do I get to vote?
oh, yep, Rob, yep, go ahead.
Not that it matters, but I'm going to say no, it's not reasonable to put that big of a house that close to the lake on that small of a lot.
Yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Every issue, Mr. Chairman, is created by the landowner. The size of the house, the location of the house in the shore impact zone, it's all created by the landowner, so I'm going to say no.
Okay. No for Rob. Bonnie?
Plus the fact they bought the lot that size, so they own that problem.
I'm going to have to agree with Rob on this one.
Okay. No from Bonnie. Mike?
I'm not sure how, but I still believe it's unique to the property.
Yes for Mike? I mean, it's unique in the fact that they'd have to have a holding tank no matter what they did. I mean, the way the lot is split, the way the options that they have. Because there's not much of an option they can change their property size. And again, yeah, they bought it that way, but there's no variable alternative, I suppose, unless.
Chairman, I'm going to remind you of the DNR training we had where they said if there's a problem there and you buy it, you own it. So it's not unique to that property. It's landowner created by buying that small a lot.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Not typically, not during a vote, sorry. I'm going to say yes, but due to the fact that it is a tie, unless anyone is willing to change the vote, it does count as a, okay. And everybody remaining votes the same?
let me think about it and
Okay.
come back around to
Can
that
we
question.
come back to that question later? Okay. Sure. The variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I don't think it will alter it.
I'd agree with that. I mean, in size of the buildings and things like that, it's fairly similar, I would say, so I'm a yes as well.
I'll say yes with that one.
Okay, Rob?
Yes.
Okay. Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations.
I don't believe that economics were a driving factor with this, so I would say yes.
Okay. Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, back to number 5. Yep.
If I can ask the chair, if you can kind of reiterate again your reasons for saying
Yeah.
yes. I'm torn between
Yeah,
the two.
I'm just looking at that lot, and no matter where they would be on that, they'd have to have that holding tank, correct? Because of the way that is designed, that lot, the size, correct? And the area that they would be able to put in the system, correct?
Without having a septic professional do a full evaluation, there might be room for a system, there might not. I don't know. I haven't done any soil verifications, any soil borings out there. There might be room. There might be options to put a full system in if they get this shady lane. They might be able to get permission from the township to put a full system in that road right-of-way. That's happened before. It's not something that's uncommon. So it's not to say they don't have options, but with what they're showing here, it's on a holding tank, and that's what they're requesting. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. So as Brian indicated, the request is what's in front of you. There wasn't another exploration of other potential options. If you look at that space, you've mentioned it several times. No one's building that road. No one's going to be on there at the end of the road. So utilization of that space is a question we don't have the answer to. And that would be a township conversation. So is it possible? We don't have that answer of what would all the requirements be, but it certainly leaves the door open.
Okay. Then I'd like to ask the applicant one question. What is it they're doing on the property that's going to reduce the coverage from 36 to 25? Yeah, yes, now you can, because we requested.
What was that?
In the report, it says that currently it's 36% impervious, but we would be gaining by going down to 25 with this project. What are you doing to get it from the 36 to the 25? Are you taking out some?
We're removing our deck in the front, and that was close to the lake. So we got rid of that, or will get rid of that.
Okay.
There was a gazebo on the right side. That's gone. Concrete's going to be gone. I really can't. Well, the driveway will be gone out of there too. There's a patch of concrete in front of the house, existing house now, that'll be gone.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said about your driveway.
Well, in the backside of the garage, there's like an apron, that's gonna be gone.
Okay, so it's just going to be grass all the way up to your double garage?
Yep. Well, I think we're allowed a portion in front of the house.
Mr. Chair, on the current application survey, there is a required 9-foot wide driveway access for the garage. That is new in the ordinance, that any overhead door that serves as a garage needs to have a 9-foot wide, minimum 9-foot wide driveway counted towards the impervious lot coverage, which is a reduction almost double of what they currently have, looking at the survey from the previous variance that they requested. Their current driveway is significantly wider than that, and then they have the deck, a patio, the gazebo, and a few other small parts of impervious that would be removed according to the survey.
When I'm trying to get my head around this, that's all very admirable, but I'm still trying to figure out how it makes it unique. And I guess I'm going to have to stick with my answer.
Yep.
That it's not unique.
So.
Well, you can change yours.
It's not going to make a difference anyway.
Well, it would.
No, it doesn't, because when it's a tie vote, it's a no.
Oh.
Yeah. So with a tie vote, that's a no for number 5, correct? Is that how that goes?
Yep.
Okay. So with that, since there's a negative, we need to look, unfortunately, for a denial of the requested variance, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the variance request.
Okay, motion from Rob. Yeah, we do need a second to continue that.
It's
on.
procedural.
Yeah, yep,
Remember.
correct, yep.
I'll second that to move it forward.
Okay. Do you want to have a discussion, or just proceed with a vote?
I'm still really struggling with this, but
The way I look at it, we're the Board of Adjustment. I know there's all the rules and everything we're supposed to follow, but if everybody followed all the rules, we wouldn't need a Board of Adjustment. And we're here to look at it. I'm looking at the big picture. They did everything. They jumped through as many hoops as possible to try to make this work. They've moved the cabin back. They've made, I think, reasonable accommodations, and that's the way I look at it. But that's why you're not going to get a second on me on a denial.
A question for staff. They purchased the property in 99. Were the setbacks and all of that in place at that time?
In 1999?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Really, the only, I think, functional change is the accommodation statutorily that nonconformities can be replaced as is in that location. So as long as they don't change the dimensions. So if they wanted to do a replacement, and they could do that as is in that location.
And then my question is, since they have a 600 and squared, when you're talking about replacing it in the same dimensions, is that the deck would still have to be a deck, or that those square footage could be part of the house, or?
I'm going to look to Brian. He works with the replacements more than I do.
Mr. Chair, Member Mossman, the deck could not become something else.
Okay.
It would need to remain a deck.
As is.
It's
I was
as-is
just looking at,
replacement.
if
Yep. It
that
wouldn't be an
square footage
expansion.
would-
Yeah.
Okay.
There wouldn't be an expansion of the dwelling onto the deck footprint. That the footprint isn't what they're getting. They're getting a direct replacement of the existing structure
Okay.
as it is dimensionally.
Okay.
That was really the only major change that we've really seen. Otherwise, the setbacks, I mean, we've added the shore impact zone language, I think came in 96. But essentially, the same setbacks apply.
Yeah, and my take was on it, you know, they moved the house back 10 feet. They got rid of a gazebo. They got rid of concrete. You know, it's, to me, I think they've given a lot, and I don't think they're asking for that much. I think that's what the Board of Adjustment is created for.
I'm still just struggling with that number 5 as far as trying to figure out what would make the situation unique.
So you have a motion and a second to
Correct.
deny.
Yep.
If you want to vote on that motion, then we can have that, any other conversation that's necessary after that.
Mike?
A motion to deny?
Yep.
I say no.
Okay. I'm a no as well, so it's a tie vote.
Which keeps us in the same
Correct.
position. It's still, but the motion, I'm just going to explain, it's procedural.
Yeah, yeah.
And then because of the fact that we have a no within the findings is why we had to vote for a denial. Just,
Yep.
that's the requirement. So,
So then I'll make a motion to approve the
and the
variance.
same is going to happen because you'll be at a
Okay.
2-2 because you can't approve a variance with a denial.
Then we'll have to
Yeah.
just discuss it,
So-
I think, as is.
So
Yeah.
we're as is with a
Right.
denial.
So then let's discuss question 5 again. If that, is that possible then to go back and
If we vote, if we have all the votes tallied, then there's nowhere to go back to.
Okay,
So we are at
All right.
2-2, it's a denial. That's where we stand.
okay.
If I'm reading, it was still 2-2.
Yep.
2-2.
Two opposed to deny. Okay.
Okay.
I've got it, Brenda. We should really good. Now you can move to the next
Okay.
agenda item.
Oh, boy, we try to improve it.
Agenda item number 2, a request from Bernard and Elizabeth Schneider of Farmington, Minnesota from sections 9.99A and 10.211A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a 24-foot by 24-foot at 76 square foot detached accessory structure that is 11.4 feet from the right-of-way of County Road 83 and 94 feet from the ordinary high water level of Schneider Lake. Said ordinance does not allow for accessory structures less than 50 feet from the right-of-way of a county road and less than 100 feet landward of the ordinary high water level of recreational development lake. Affected property, Lot 6 of Jansen's Addition and Wakefield Township, property address 17753, County Road 83, Cold Spring, Minnesota. If I can get your name and address for the public record, please.
Hi, we're the Schneiders. Oh my God. We're the Schneiders, Bernard and Elizabeth, and 17753, County Road 83. That's going to be our future home.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then for people who are able to visit the site, Mike?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And I was able to visit myself, so a full board present here today was able to visit. And staff to report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Was there any correspondence with the applicants while you were on site to any of the board members?
Yes, I had a discussion with them, and they, shared with me what their plans were. And
Thank you, Member Mossman. I will start out with comments from the Highway Department, since this is a county road. Jody Tyke, County Engineer, has offered no objections on the basis that there are other structures in the area that are roughly the same distance from the right-of-way, and the road is likely constructed as wide as it will ever be. So I want to add that to the record.
That was from county?
County, yep, Stearns County Highway Department. So some background on the request. The applicants own Lot 6 of Jansen's Addition on Schneider Lake in Wakefield Township. The lot contains 13,415 square feet in lot area above the ordinary high water level. Per the survey provided by the applicants purchased the property in September of 2002. The property is in the R1 zoning district of Schneider Lake, which is classified as recreational development and is on the impaired waters list for nutrients. The proposed impervious lot coverage is at the maximum allowed 25% according to the survey submitted by the applicant. The existing dwelling and deck were constructed in 1955 according to assessor records prior to official controls. A variance was granted in 1985 to place a 9-foot by 22-foot screen porch 45 feet from the ordinary high of Schneider Lake. The existing sheds, unpermitted pergola, and portions of the existing driveway will need to be removed, and the existing garage door will need to be converted to an entry door or removed prior to issuing of a construction site permit. Additionally, an as-built survey will be required after the project to verify the impervious lot coverage standards are met. Wakefield Township, the Sauk River Watershed District, the Chain of Lakes Association, and the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And for alternatives, we just have grant or deny the variance as requested based on the findings of fact. And that is all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Applicants, anything you wish to say to the board about your request?
Yeah, we're looking to build a garage because we are downsizing from Farmington where we live to move up here. You know, we got all our relatives and stuff up here, and we choose to live up here for the remainder of our days, and we need a garage to put stuff in.
Very good. Any other questions for board members, staff, or to the applicants?
So the lake is named after your ancestor.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's right, yeah.
What better place to
Ben
live?
Schneider, and then he died and gave it to my great aunt Catherine, which we ended up getting money in the end for it. So yeah, we we came, you know, from Germany here, my grandparents did, and that's everybody's brothers, everybody's homesteaded up by Munson Town Hall, and I was speaking to Bonnie, and we're pretty well intertwined because her neighbor was my uncle, and I've got 56 close first cousins right in this area.
We won't get into the Stearns County family stuff there. Just we'll go around that. I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
If you construct that garage, will your driveway end at the 90-degree turn into it?
Yes, yes.
So everything from that turn to the house will be grass?
Grass, yeah.
And what are your plans for your current garage?
Make it a family room,
Okay.
yeah.
With a closet.
Have some of the family members over maybe then, not 56, but, you know. Any other questions from board members or staff or the applicant?
I do have one other
Yep.
one. And when I parked in your driveway and then backed out, it seemed like it was possible that your new garage would obstruct your vision to the west of oncoming traffic, eastbound traffic.
We don't believe so, because it's the same as Scotia Winners, my neighbor's.
Okay.
It's lined up along with his.
Okay, because it
Yeah.
seemed to me where the stakes were there, it was closer to the road than the neighbors.
Well, that might have been the survey stakes. Mine were
Okay.
just a little driveway markers. I should have maybe put some tape around it and made it look better.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Have to ask this. I mean, the deputy could offer input, Nick could offer some input, whatever, but anyone wishing to speak to this audience request? Anyone wishing to speak to the audience request? Anyone wishing to speak to the other audience request? Seeing and hearing none, looking for a motion and a second to close the public hearing, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to close the
All
hearing.
right, from Amy, second, anybody?
I'll second it.
Okay, second from Rob. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now moving to our finding of facts. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, that's a yes. R1 zone does allow accessory buildings.
Okay, yes from Amy. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah,
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so yes for number one. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to say yes to that. The garage is not, it's moving away from the shoreline. It's on the back side of the house towards the road.
Okay, yes from Amy. Bonnie?
And I'm going to say yes for the reason that the county highway department does not have an issue with it, and so that's related to ordinances.
Okay, Rob?
yeah.
Mike? And I'm a yes. Yes for number two. Number three, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes. It does go with living goals. Number 4, encourage new homes to be constructed in a suitable manner.
Okay. Bonnie?
And I'm going to say yes for the reason that, you know, that the road that is going past there, the use of that road has changed significantly. And so the amount of traffic on that road is probably significantly less than it used to be. And I'm sure that's why the highway department said that there really wouldn't be anticipating any expansion because they have a major road, you know, right next to it. So that would be my reasoning for yes.
Mr. Chair, I want to add to mine with living goals number 3 as well.
Okay. So yes from Amy and Bonnie. Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Well, Mr. Chair, yes, it's reasonable to want a garage to store your stuff in.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner.
Mr. Chair, yes, it's unique to the property. There really is no other ideal place to construct a shed that would make sense.
Yes from Amy. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to say no under the same reason from the previous one. They bought the lot that small, and the actual road right-of-way is, I'm assuming, has reduced since it went from a state highway to a county road.
Okay.
Well, I might take exception with you, with the comment saying they bought it that way. It was kind of handed down in the family that way from, you know, a significantly long time that it's been in the family.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, yes, the Highway Department has approved their request, and also the neighbor next to it has identical.
Okay. Bonnie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, yes, no economics were discussed.
Okay, Bonnie?
I'd say yes, use was the reason for it, not finance.
Yes.
Mike? And I'm a yes, so that's a yes for number 7. So we would look for a motion and a second to approve the variance request.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the variance request.
Motion from Amy,
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it.
second from Rob. Remaining votes, Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So the variance request is granted. Any questions, just talk to staff during regular business hours. Thank you.
Good luck.
Folks, thank you.
Yep. And then,
Nick.
do we approve our minutes before him, though?
Sure.
Okay, I figured that'd be good to get that take out of the way.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve our minutes from last meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Second? Anyone?
I'll second.
Second, Bonnie. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented? Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Amy made the motion.
Aye.
Did the second.
Okay, we all had an aye, right? Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Motion,
Now you were going to roll call it.
motion to approve meeting minutes has been approved, and now on our agenda to Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Adjustment, Nick Newman, Senior Environmental Specialist. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit today regarding variances in sensitive shoreland areas. We made a little bit of a change here in some of the technical evaluation. Some of you might remember Soil and Water Conservation District giving comments and input and technical guidance in terms of variance applications in shoreland. We've moved that in-house now, and I'll be reviewing those. It's just going to be limited to variance requests that are in the shore impact zone or bluff impact zone. And those areas really are the most sensitive areas around our water bodies that we want to make sure that we're kind of considering the potential impacts from requests. So with that, we just, we think about how there's requirements, in our shoreline areas for a reason, or ordinances have been developed and, for a reason, and whatever the variance request is from, there is going to be some impact regardless of whatever it is, whatever type of increase, whether it's impervious or otherwise, that these are things that we just want to make sure that we're looking at and evaluating. So in terms of mitigation, that's one aspect I wanted to talk a little bit about. And when we think back to the DNR training that we had, they referenced it a few times, and how mitigation's not really an aspect to justify approving a variance. It's something that we look at considering that separately. And in these areas that are in the shore impact zone or bluff impact zone, they're very challenging spaces that a lot of times meaningful mitigation is either challenging or not possible. So that's something that we look at, and it's going to be included in our site assessments that I do and include as part of the application that'll be shown in the staff reports that you see. So, in the past, the BOA has looked at, including mitigation and trying to specify that either at the meeting or, thinking about that beforehand. In the handout that you have there, I just pointed out, I kind of threw out a couple examples of mitigation that's really not as effective. Things like smaller vegetation buffers. While they may seem great in theory, a lot of times in practice, especially when they're not substantial in size, the actual effectiveness of them in filtering runoff, improving groundwater infiltration and things like that, there's limited effectiveness if it's not robust enough. And that's difficult to determine at a meeting. It's a little bit more, it takes a little bit more time to do it properly, to design it and implement it. So those are things that when we look at in terms of adding conditions or things, we're looking at if approved and if mitigation is then recommended for approval as well, that would be something that to make it more substantial and actually meaningful, that would be something that they'd work with environmental services staff on, to work on and develop that plan as something that isn't, necessarily approved at a meeting per se. So in the packet I provided there, it outlines what the site assessment is and what's kind of covered on that. I look at existing areas where stormwater runoff occurs, if there's any erosion happening on site, any other concerns or issues, as well as the native vegetation that's present. For all of our shoreline alterations that we do, not variances, but shoreline alteration permits, we do a vegetation site assessment for all of those, and they need to meet minimum scores and minimum standards in order to get a project approved. A lot of that, it just revolves around the fact that we're losing more native vegetation around shorelines than we're gaining in most areas, and that's kind of a statewide issue. So that's also included as part of that site assessment. So that's all included there.
I got a really silly question for you.
Yep.
Maybe this is jumping ahead a little bit too far. I was just reading here about your tree cover. When you guys determine that, do you guys determine like dead vegetation, dead trees, dead shrubs? Is that all considered in this as well?
Yeah, good question. So anything that's dead can be removed by the property owner, so that's not included as part of this. Property owners can remove without a permit anything that's dead or invasive, so things like buckthorn, prickly ash, and other invasives. So that can all be removed without a permit, and that we disregard as part of the site assessment.
So if they wanted to replace what they've taken out, they still would have to come through you, correct?
Yes, so if it's vegetation that's not invasive, and it requires a vegetation permit, then yes, they would need to come through us. But if they're removing invasives, they're not required, necessarily to plant new vegetation unless it's part of a permit application, for shoreline or something. But if it's just on their own, it's not a requirement. No, that's a good question because it comes up all the time, and it's definitely relevant to this when we're doing our site assessments. So. I did include 2 other DNR handouts regarding impervious surfaces and ordinary high water level setbacks as it relates to variance guidance and such. So that's a little bit more extensive and something you can look at too if you'd like, but it's consistent with kind of what we're trying to go for in evaluating the sites in terms of variances and mitigation.
So I guess for me, how can we utilize this for Board of Adjustment and what is the language you expect or would be helpful when you see a situation that you think mitigation is needed? What language should this board use so that it can come back and staff can manage it? Because that's where we struggle, but we should give you concrete language or if you're going to mitigate, here's the language to use so that it can, if it has to come back to staff to review or do, then we have it so that you don't get stuck with that burden.
Does Nick Nguyen have cards made?
He has a lot of cards that he hands out.
Sure, yeah. I guess if you have any ideas right now in terms of things, so like, on this site assessment page, on my site notes, I will note, any concerns or issues that are present or that might be impacted by approval of the variance. So that'll be noted in there, but if there's anything specifically or things that you have questions or would want to know about, you can let me know now, and those are things I can make sure.
You might regret that question.
No, these are exactly the kind of questions that we want. So,
I like to call a lot.
so what you'll be getting this sheet in your packet with that score, and then if you see that it doesn't meet one of the zones, and yet you're like thinking that the variance you're granting has some relationship to often impervious surface, or there's something happening, we probably should have some language for you that's specific. So we might need to come up with that. I'm going to look to Brian's staff report writer so that it's clear what Board of Adjustment could do with a mitigating circumstance.
And that's something that we can include in the alternatives and recommended conditions, where we state at the end of our staff report, we say, it's grant or deny, or some of the alternatives for the request we can include in there, especially if it's one of these properties that's in the shore impact zone or the bluff impact zone, or wherever we determine that it needs to be, that mitigation may be something that's beneficial. It would be something that we would state, hey, we have, mitigation as a recommendation, and we can work on some language that maybe helps that
way you
motion.
could use the language that's right there in that recommendation.
And that'll be available on the staff report.
I think that would help if I'm reading people correctly.
Yep. And the only challenge there is that, if it's drafted and it looks great, it may be tempting to want to use that to approve variances that maybe shouldn't be. So that is a temptation there to make that distinction on. So just
Vary to granting a variance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Grant first based on your criteria, and if you grant if you know your criteria are all yes, then you can have the mitigation conversation. Don't say we're going to grant it because we're mitigating. So it's got to be, yep, we answered yes. Is there a reason to mitigate something?
See, my struggle always with that is that, okay, we discuss it, we do the findings of fact, we vote, we make our decision. Once we grant something, how can we then, after we've granted it, then go say, oh, by the way, you have to do these conditions?
It's after you do your findings before you make your decision.
Okay, because I think what happened before was we'd make the decision, and then they say, well, then now let's talk about mitigation. And I thought, well, how can we do that? We already allowed it.
Right, so you should be going through your findings of fact, so you know, and as you saw tonight, you had one that was a no. And if you have any one of them as a no, then you're obligated to deny that request.
So then we don't even
So then you don't have to worry about mitigation. But if everything's a yes, and you've gone through it, before you make the motion to approve, you say, is there anything that we think we should be mitigating based on the request that was in front of us?
Yeah. Okay.
Because you make your findings, then you do that conversation about mitigation. Not that you're doing mitigation so that you can approve.
Right,
It's that after.
And my
Oh, yes.
understanding, I think a couple
Procedural.
times was procedurally we'd voted, and then we'd said, oh yeah, but we got to do mitigation.
Right.
Well, I thought once you approve it, you can't go backwards.
It felt a little backwards.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so we're just making sure we step you through the process, make your decision based on your statutory findings, have those findings all set up, go through them, they're all yeses. Then we talk about if there's a reason for mitigation, it's an impervious surface situation or whatever it is, shore impact zone, bluff impact zone, then you can have that, what should we do for mitigation? And then we can look at that as options.
Yeah, and by all means, I mean, if you have questions, more specifically as relates to how certain, uses have impacts or even just,
Amy will call you.
Types of
It's
plants
fine.
and buffers
Rob
or whatever.
will call
It's-
you.
yeah.
It's fine.
So
No, we don't. We say, thank you for calling. Bonnie has called before. Jacob has called before.
Never said thank you. I'm just kidding. There's a
Not
difference.
true.
Kidding.
So we do expect that members will call us and ask us those questions. None of these aren't, obviously, they're all different. Every single property is looked at differently. So it's incumbent upon you. And sometimes after you do that site visit, you're like, now I'm really confused, right? Or, oh, that cleared it up. I get it because I can see it. Or you go, well, the bluff looks different, or, oh, wow, that's really steep, or, I'm concerned about that shoreline. There's a reason. And then you will have some numeric way of looking at it, which should help you in mitigating some of those circumstances.
And if you have questions about that report and you bring them to the meeting, don't hesitate to ask, because all of the variance staff should be able to walk you through what it means when that report is presented. And maybe you have the question and you're willing to ask it, but there might be other members that aren't quite sure they had the question until you asked it, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I wasn't quite sure of that either. And it kind of helps everybody understand what we're all looking at when it comes to really looking at these properties, and it becomes part of the discussion as opposed to this behind the scenes type of a scenario.
This is probably my bandwagon. I'll jump back on it again. But, see, what bothers me sometimes about our processes is that there's sometimes individuals that never go to site visits, and I think how that's not doing justice to the citizens, because from what you see on paper to what you see at the site,
World of difference.
completely different. And I've said it over and over again, but that doesn't change some people's, behavior as far as never going.
And,
Get off the bandwagon.
nope, we highly encourage and we appreciate the fact that you guys do take your job seriously, and you look and you're understanding that this is a request that people are making to you. Yes, there are times when you're looking at it, as Mike said, that's the reason we're here. That's the reason they can make the request. Just so everybody's really clear, there's not a single person that can't come in and make a request, even if I think it's the worst idea ever, or if it's the best idea ever. It has nothing to do with us or our department, that every single person is allowed due process so they can always make a request. The value of that request, the number of variances, the deviation, and I know we used to talk a lot more about that deviation from the standard. And maybe that's part of the conversation that needs to come back a little more, because I think when you had that, so tonight on the garage, it's like, well, it's in line with those others. Okay, then it's really not deviating from the norm of that neighborhood. Is that reasonable? Yep, you thought it was reasonable. I think those are the kinds of things that we need to maybe bring back as a little more of that deviation.
And understand that we aren't just taking these applications in and presenting them to you. We have many conversations with applicants that are coming to you with requests that, based on your track record, we may or may not believe they stand a chance. Every day. It's every staff. Every day sitting along me in our office, every cubicle is having that same conversation with applicants about, hey, we don't see these get approved. We don't typically see these. What's your hardship? What makes this property unique? All the language that you're using in these meetings, we're regurgitating that to these applicants, because we want to make sure that they're doing their homework, and if they are going to apply for a variance, that they're coming to you having thought through these questions. And sometimes they make it through without making the changes that we maybe talk about. Hey, get behind that impact zone line, get behind that building line, maybe move your septic tank, maybe move that, you know.
Reduce the side yard, change this or change that. There's a lot of
Modifications.
conversation that happens that you guys aren't privy to. And there you have some parties who say, come, you know, I'm gonna put it through because that's what I want. And then there are times, I think we've had a few accessory structure ones for sure, where they've went, oh, now I hear what, then it
Right.
clicks that all the things we've said.
You were right.
And then they had to come back and they've made those adjustments. Some have adjusted all the way and others have not. We have had, and I think Bonnie, you were here, 4 times. It was a cabin on a bluff, I think it was on Watab,
I think I was there for that too. I
right?
remember
I
that.
think you might have been, but I think we were there 4 times before we got it to where it needed to be based on the size of the structure and the request and everything that was happening. It was a bluff and all that. So you're doing your job. Ask those questions. Staff is here. Nick is going to do his best to give us this more assessment information so that you can make any mitigation that you feel necessary based on the request that's in front of you, if you in fact have approved that request through the findings. Brian, anything else?
Phone call, email, let me know.
I looked at her
Anyone
right away.
else. Don't hesitate.
Nick,
It's-
anything else from you?
No, I don't think so.
Nick, you want to share your phone number?
You can find it on the,
Call the office. The office and we'll send you to Nick.
How many
Thank you, guys.
variances do you guys have for next month?
5, maybe 6.
Okay. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Did you write that? Amy was adjourned.
He wants to go. I'll second it.
Second for Rob. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.